Okapi have zebra-like hind legs, but do not be fooled, they're actually most closely related to the giraffe. We know this because they have the same long prehensile tongue, meaning they use their tongue to grab their food. They also have the same skull structure as the giraffe. One more look at the bongos on the left-hand side up at the top of the hill. Both male and female bongos have those horns. Unlike the greater kudu we saw earlier, only males have horns for them. One more glimpse of the okapi on the right-hand side as we round the corner. On the left-hand side, just standing to the left of the log, there is a black rhino. I know that's a black rhino because it has a pointed prehensile lip, meaning it uses its lip to grab its food. Black rhinos are pretty solitary, so they like to be on their own. Unfortunately, they've also become a pretty rare sight due to poaching. They've been highly poached for their horns, which are made of keratin, the same thing that our fingernails and our hair are made out of. Coming up on the left-hand side as we round the corner, just behind the bamboo, you might catch a glimpse of a black and white bird called a saddlebill stork. They can get up to 5 feet tall and have a wingspan of about 8 to 9 feet across. Looks like there's 2 of them there. They're pretty solitary, likely to be on their own, but if we see 2 together, that means that they're a mated pair, and they'll mate for life. We are leaving the Lilitzuri forest and we're heading towards the Safi River region. In the Safi River, animals are aquatic, which means they spend most of their time in the water. So we're going to have to look under the water for any dark shapes, ripples, or bubbles. That might mean that there's an animal there. Coming up on the left-hand side, up on the shore as we round this next corner, the gray and white birds are pink-backed pelicans. Now you may be saying, why are you calling them pink if they're gray and white? That's because on their back is a little spot of pink that gets a bit more vibrant towards the mating season. They are colonial nesters, so they'll nest in pairs of 2, all the way up to 500. But they do prefer the quiet backwaters, like these, in order to find their food. Bit of a better view of the pink-backed pelicans on the left-hand side as we round the corner. On the left-hand side as we round the corner, way in the back behind the rocks, looks like there's a Nile hippo. Pretty hard to see right now. We'll see if we can get a better view as soon as we can move forward. The Nile hippos spend the vast majority of their time in the water. They can actually be fully submerged for up to 8 minutes at a time. Even when they're sleeping, they'll be submerged, and they'll just float up to the top, take a breath of air, and sink back down, all without waking up, completely by muscle memory. Now, the best way to look for a Nile hippo is to look for a dark shape just moving underneath the water, because they actually prefer to just walk or run along the bottom of the river. Although you may often see them up at the top of the water with the top of their heads out of the water. They are perfectly built to do this because they've got eyes on the very top of their head. It helps them to see anything that's around them above the water. Their ears are on the top of their head so they can hear anything happening around the water. But then they let the rest of their jaw be submerged because their lower jaw can actually sense any vibrations that are happening underneath the water. That way they're aware of what's going on around them at all times. I do see a few more Nile hippos over by the rocks, just walking on the bottom of the river. So as we round the corner, we're going to have to look for those dark shapes moving. A little harder to see over there.
Yep.
And up in front of us, there is a rickety-looking bridge. Let's make sure that everyone is fully seated while we go over the bridge. Oh, and that was a wheeze honk.
Up, it's out.
This particular sound that the hippos make could be a honk, wheeze, wheeze, honk. Any of those combinations put together. Now I need everyone to be fully seated because we're about to go over a bridge where on the left-hand side there are live crocodiles. These are Nile crocodiles, and I need everyone to be seated before we go over a bridge. I need even children on laps to be fully seated. Even children on laps need to be seated because we're about to be on a bridge over live crocodiles. Thank you very much. Nile crocodiles can reach up to 16 feet in length and weigh up to 500 pounds. Now they only tend to eat about once a week, but in a single feeding, they can eat up to half of their body weight. That is 250 pounds. All right, we are leaving the Safi River region. Oh, it looks like we're heading towards my favorite area. That's the savannah. I know we're heading towards the savannah because the vegetation on either side of us is beginning to thin out just a bit. Here's another shore side of the savannah. Coming up on the right-hand side as we round the corner, my friends on the left might be able to get a bit of a glimpse of it right now. There's a baobab tree. The baobab tree may look like an upside-down tree, but that's just because it's leafless for about 9 months out of the year. Its spongy bark holds water in it, and during the dry season, animals will actually get into the bark for the water, which is why it's often called the tree of life. There we go, a bit of a better view of the baobab tree coming up on the right-hand side as we round the corner. Everyone here has already seen a baobab tree today, of course, because the tree of life in the animal kingdom is in fact a baobab tree. Baobab trees can live to be several thousand years old. I'll be the first to admit that I'm a horrible judge of age, but looking at the size of this tree on the right-hand side, I'd have to wager a guess it's at least several hundred years old, at the very least there. On the left-hand side as we round the corner, you'll get your first view of the savannah. You may notice the grass is trimmed pretty short out there. That's the work of grazing animals, like zebras and antelopes. And the trees are trimmed pretty high up. That is the work of giraffes. They say that you can tell how tall the tallest giraffe is by how high up the trees are trimmed. You know, I actually see quite a few animals out there in the distance. Now, don't worry, we are going to talk about all those animals. I'm just going to talk about them as we get a little bit closer to them.